Okay, so we're gonna make classic chicken tikka masala. All the flavors are classic, but we are actually gonna introduce an element of molecular gastronomy into that. I'll get into that in a second. So first we marinated the chicken. And to do that, I have all the ingredients laid on here, but and I'll have it all typed up. But we have cilantro, we have the classic ginger garlic combination in Indian cuisine. Ginger, garlic, and then we're going to add a significant amount of garam masala, which is the famous 7 spices. We'll add a little bit of heat to it. We got some brown red Kashmiri chili. After that, we add a decent amount of turmeric, again a classic in Indian cuisine. And then what really makes the tikka masala is the next ingredient, which is, well, other than the spices, is the yogurt. And so what we're going to do is we're going to circulate this and put it inside a thermal circulator. So one of the cool things about that is this recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of yogurt, which is not full of fat, but you're adding fat. But the thing is, when you use this technique, you can use less of everything, because everything that's in there is going to be infused while it's cooking in the bag. I'm adding salt and pepper too. And then I'm going to bathe it with oil, because I like to put fat inside the sous vide bag when I cook. So I'm going to put enough to coat, plus a little bit more, so it's kind of like cooking in the olive oil. So we mix all that up. Again, we're talking about the yogurt. There's 1/3 the amount of yogurt that's in the recipe. But the beauty of this is the chicken's going to cook for a minimum of 90 minutes, and in those 90 minutes, the chicken's going to be infused with all of the flavors. And by the way, the amount of spices that I added is less than what's actually in the recipe, because again, we don't need to add all that because it's going to be cooking for 90 minutes. So to explain what the thermal circulator is and how it's going to work, so I have the circulator set at 150 degrees. The cool thing about that is if we cook chicken, this is chicken breast. I do size at 156. But the cool thing about that is when the chicken breast is cooked, it's not possible to overcook it, because it's never going to go above 150 degrees. So when it's done, it's going to be completely cooked all the way through, perfectly moist, right at the what I call it is the a la pointe, to the point of protein coagulation. Again, we cannot overcook it. So what I'm doing now is, sous vide means under vacuum. Under vacuum, it means you put something in a bag, you take out all the atmospheric pressure, and then you seal it. We don't have that equipment here in this kitchen. If you don't have it at home, I don't know who's going to watch this video. You can use a food saver. That works pretty well. But you can also do what's called the water displacement method. I almost did it without explaining it. So we put the chicken that's marinated into this bag. I just squeezed out. You don't have to be crazy about it. Squeezed out a bunch of the air. And then what you do is I use Ziploc bags with a slider always, for this reason. I bring it all the way over to about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. I stick my finger in there so that air can escape. And then I with my hand take out a bunch of the air. But then what you do is you put the corner of the bag into the water, and as you gently lower it in here, the water is pushing all the air out of the bag. And what I'm going to do is end up where my finger is, so that as much air as possible out of the bag. And it's crazy, if you do this, it only takes a couple times to get the technique. When you do this, the result is very similar to a food saver. There's pretty much no air in there. If I drop this in the water, it's going to sink to the bottom because there's no air in there. And then what we're going to do is come over to the thermal circulator. This is in the other room. I'll explain why. I have a tendency when I'm cooking to use my equipment, meaning the best equipment available, and I have a tendency to blow circuit breakers in every kitchen I cook in. So anytime I set up the thermal circulator, I do it in another room to try and avoid that, because I have induction burners set up over there and I'm using the blender all the time and the Instapot. So what we do is we lower it into the water, and then I clip it to the side so it doesn't go all the way in. Now, at this point, water cannot get in there, but it's sitting bathed in water. It just dropped in temperature, but it's going to come back up to 150 degrees. I'm going to leave it there for 90 minutes. And one other thing about this technique, I actually call it reverse braising. Braising is a classic two cooking method technique where you cook something in a liquid, like say you're making beef stew or chili. You cook your beef, you sear your beef to get the flavor, and then you cook it in a liquid. So you're doing two different cooking methods. What we're doing is reverse braising. We're cooking it in a moist atmosphere in here, and then when we're done, we're going to brown it afterwards. All right, thank you.